Hey Emmaus, welcome back to Wednesday nights. We're really excited for something special that we have for you guys tonight. But before we get started, I have a few announcements for you. First off, D-Team applications are going to be due later in the summer. So if you're interested in being a part of D-Team, make sure that you start those applications. There's a link to application in the description below. But basically, if you want to be part of D-Team, what it looks like is that's our discipleship team. It's both our serve team and our worship team. So if you're interested in either of those things, we'd love for you to be a part of D-Team. If you're looking to take that next step in your faith and grow this next year, this is what you want to be a part of. And so it's serving behind the scenes, it's being a part of the worship team. You can do each of those or individually, you can do those as well. So we'd love for you to be a part of that. If you're interested, check out the application below or ask Mason and I if you guys have any questions. But they'll be due later in the summer. We kind of have a to be determined date for that, so just get working on it. And then finally, next week we have our summer kickoff. It's finally here, and we are so excited to be able to start. We're going to have move up, so we actually have our 5th graders that are now 6th graders moving up and going to be a part of Emmaus next week. So we're super excited. We are kicking off this series with the Jukebox series, and so we're excited to start that. But as we kind of move into the summer, make sure you guys are checking our social media pages for just new information about how we're meeting. With everything changing constantly, we never know what we're going to be able to do. And so we're excited for those next steps and be able to meet soon. So make sure you guys stay updated on that. But we will see you next week for that. And without further ado, join us for this special panel talk tonight.
Well, hey, Emmaus, I am here tonight with some of our D-Team students, and I'll introduce them in a second. But we're going to be having a conversation around the topic of race and everything that's been going on in our country. And the goal for tonight is for us to actually hear from some of our peers that we're in community with, to hear what they've been going through, and then to see what it looks like for us as Christians to move forward. And so I hope you guys are able to kind of connect with us tonight. This is obviously a very heavy topic. There's a lot of things that surround it, but we want to kind of take it out of the news, out of the politics, bring it back down to real life with real life people. So why don't we just introduce you guys first, starting down here.
Hi, I'm Melanie Gitiha, and I'm a freshman.
I'm Harriet Ikandu, and I'm a senior.
My name is Justin Ikandu, and I'm a sophomore.
I'm Makena Mwiti, and I'm a freshman.
Awesome. And you guys are all on our discipleship team, which is kind of why we asked you here today. So let's dive in. The first question I have for you guys is really, like, with everything going on right now, how are you feeling? What kind of emotions and feelings have been coming up for you as you've been seeing everything with George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, everything going on in our news? Kind of how's that resonating with you? Melanie, let's start with you.
There's a lot of emotions that go with the heaviness of this topic, especially when it hits hard to home, because it's relatable, because you don't know if any of these instances could be someone you love or it could be you. And so I have been fighting off a bunch of sadness for the families who lost their people, and just for the country, because everyone is hurting right now. But you also have to fight off anger and hate, and it's really, really hard to try and find peace when a lot of things of injustice are happening. And that's just what I have to work through every day when I see these things on the news, because it's just takes over your full mind and your soul, because it's hard. It's really hard.
Harriet, how about you?
Like Melanie said, it's definitely a range of emotions. But honestly, when I first hear that another man or another woman has been shot or killed, I'm like, another one? Like, it just feels like there's a countless, endless number, and it's heartbreaking. It's because I look like those people. My skin color has become a weapon that I cannot control. So it's really scary. You end up living in fear or having this feeling that your life is so fragile because you can be doing anything and something can happen to you. It's difficult. It's hard to explain to someone who doesn't understand.
Justin?
For me, it's really difficult seeing the family, friends, and the family of like these people mourning because I know it could be my family, and sometimes I just put myself in the position of these people and think like, what if it was me? And what if it was Justin Ikandu, not George Floyd? What if it was Justin Ikandu, not Ahmaud Arbery? And so it's just like really difficult for me, like thinking like this could happen to me. Like this is a real issue that could happen to me. So it's like, it's kind of weird just to think about it like that.
Kenna?
I've been feeling very overwhelmed looking at like social media. Everybody posting about like George Floyd and everything. I've been wondering like how many lives are going to be lost until the point comes across that people are being killed because of police brutality. I've been picturing myself as if I was a family that had lost somebody, and if someone in my family had died, or if it was like me or anybody else. Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I think one of the misconceptions that happens a lot with these news stories, right, is they become so big and they seem like they're just not real, they're just not personal to what's going on in our lives. And this happens over there, but it doesn't happen here. And I was wondering if you guys could be just a little bit vulnerable and maybe explain a time or an instance where you've experienced racism or prejudice kind of in your own lives. So Melanie, we'll start with you again.
I don't actually have a huge story where anybody was blatantly racist to me, but I feel like something that I have that is even deeper is the regular racism, the part that people don't realize that they do. Like if I wear my natural hair instead of braids, I'm looked at like, what did you do? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why would you change your hair like that? When this is me, this is how I am. And even as like, I remember a kindergartner looking at all my friends, my white friends, and thinking they're so pretty. I'm not pretty. I'm not enough, because that's all I saw. That's all the representation that I saw. And I was looked at as being different all the time. So I didn't think that I was worthy, and I didn't think I was enough until I grew up and I started to see all these beautiful people and great, amazing people that I know that I am a part of that community, which has made me really proud. But you have to know the deep-rooted societal prejudices that you have in yourself that you don't even notice, but you do have.
Right, I think like really what you're hitting at there is there's like two types of racism that happens, right? There's overt racism, which is like when someone comes at you and says like, I hate you because you're black, or, you know, it's very, very obvious. But then there's kind of like that subversive cultural kind of racism where it's like, well, you should act this way or behave this way because you're different, or you should fit in, or whatever. And I think that's really important, because I think a lot of times we, especially being a white male, right? The narrative I've told myself is like, I'm not racist. Like I've never said like, I hate you because you're black or Asian or Hispanic or whatever. But there's like that underlying prejudice and bias that still creeps out. And that's kind of where the issue comes from. But yeah, Harriet, would you like to share?
Yeah, casual racism is something that exists every single day in those little comments, and you don't think about them, but it does affect other people. But one story that you may not have heard of is like me personally. I've been with my friend who looks exactly like me, and it was wintertime and we had our coats on, and I said, let's go to Office Depot because I needed to find a little keychain thing. And so we walk in the store and someone comes to greet us and they're like, hi, can we help you with anything? And we're like, we're okay, we're just looking around. We didn't think anything about, and then they started following us. Every time we turned a corner, they turned a corner. Every time we looked back at them, they pretended to be doing something, and so like we just left. And so those things do happen. Like, you think it doesn't exist in your town, you think it doesn't exist in your school, but it really does. People do judge other people based on their skin color. And sometimes you may say, oh, I've never heard of it. Well, sometimes I feel like I may experience something, but I don't step up and I don't speak up and say something because I'm like, okay, I am privileged to be in this predominantly white school. I'm privileged to have this opportunity. I'm not gonna say anything because I wanna keep the peace and I wanna keep everything calm, so I'll just dismiss it. And I realize that hasn't been helpful, and so we all need to speak up against it when you see something, because that's the only way it's gonna change.
Thank you. Yeah, Justin?
One experience that really kind of changed my views, kind of, was one time when we went on a hike with Melanie's mom, Harriet, my mom, and I. And Melanie's mom is very educated on the national parks in California. Like, she's been to almost, not in California, in the United States, she's been to almost all of them. And she's a very determined hiker and knows like the trail systems pretty well. And she's a very educated and powerful woman. And I have a lot of respect for her. And so we were hiking through these trails and we came to a cross section and we met another family. And they asked us, oh, do you know where this certain trail is? And we're like, oh yeah, we're taking that trail too. It's like along this way. And they made a comment along the lines of, I don't trust Jamaicans. And just because of our skin color, they already profiled us and put us into this category that we might not fit, or they think that we are less knowledgeable because of our skin color. Or that, I'm not saying that Jamaicans are less knowledgeable, but I'm saying that like they thought less of us and they can't trust us because of our skin color, and they put us into a category that we don't even belong in. And like, I was very young and I just couldn't believe that people can just make views off things they don't know and off just a skin color and think you're less knowledgeable. And so we ended up taking the trail, and it turned out it was the right trail and they took the wrong trail. And we didn't meet them at the parking lot when we got there. So if you're seeing this now, I hope you guys made it out. So, yeah.
Okay, so they said they didn't trust you because you're Jamaican, but to be clear, you're not Jamaican.
No, I'm not Jamaican.
Okay.
And we did not say anything about our race or anything.
Okay.
We just had a genuine conversation, and they started like saying things about us that aren't true.
Right, so there's kind of like double racism there, right? Like assumptions of where you're from, and then assumptions about your credibility based on your race. And yeah. Makena.
I have a story from like years ago. I was like in 3rd or 4th grade, I think, and at that time I was already like comparing myself to the white kids in my school, like wanting to have straighter hair, lighter skin and stuff. But one day, like, these boys in my class, they were writing hurtful notes to me, and I didn't want to say anything to my teacher or like my parents or anything. So it just continued on for like a few weeks, I'm pretty sure. And one day my teacher found out, and she called the principal and my parents in just to talk about it. And my mom didn't know any of this was happening or going on at my school. And the boys in my class, they sat down with my principal and their parents, and we had a conversation about what was happening, about the stuff they wrote to me. And it came through as like prejudice and racism, because yeah, they were saying just hurtful things to me when I was like very young, and that stuck with me until like today. Yeah.
Yeah.
To add on to what McKenna said, like I've also been called names, and for no reason. Like I can be sitting next to Justin, and all of a sudden they start calling me names, and people don't realize like some of those names, they've originated to hurt people.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, whatever. Like my friend said that I could use it, or like, oh, people say it in songs or whatever. But they're hurtful. Like they come from a hurtful place, and they used to hurt people, and they hurt me, and they probably hurt all of them, because we're like, wow, that person thinks that of us. Like it puts us down. It really does, and it happens more often than you think. Yeah.
Yeah, like for example, I was actually in the group chat this year, and I was not I was not starting anything. I was just being passive in the group chat, and I was flooded with just hateful words for no reason, and I didn't even know how to respond, because it was just 8 versus 1 basically.
Yeah.
And so it's so difficult sometimes, because like, why are you just trying to spread hate or saying these hateful things to put other people down? I just don't understand.
Yeah, Justin, I remember that, right? You and I, we had a huge conversation about that, and that's the thing I think that's really important for everyone to know, is that racism doesn't just happen when it makes the news, but you know, Justin and I have been in conversation all year about stuff like this, and it's everywhere. Now I'm gonna ask him one more question, and if you're watching at home right now and you're starting to feel a little sad or helpless, hang in there with us. We're gonna get to that in a second. But for you guys, kind of one last question: what is like one thing? All right, we had a little technical difficulty there. We lost the whole second half of our conversation, and so we're back. We've been to Chick-fil-A, and we're gonna dive right back into where we left off. So, Melanie, starting with you, what is one thing you wish everyone would kind of understand or know about this situation?
I would like people to know that everybody, even me, and I know everyone, has a little bit of bias in themselves, and they need to find it by looking deep and like just realizing what you're doing and making the change, even if it is slow, and not ignoring other people's problems and the issues that they face, because it doesn't affect you, because it affects so many people, and it's really important for you to have compassion and spread love and be there for other people, even if you don't understand.
One thing I would like to add is be willing to start conversation and participate in conversation, because conversation is key to creating change, and educate yourself and educate the people around you, and also be willing to be taught and actively listen to those around you, because it's hard to do stuff and make change when you don't know what is going on or how other people feel about it.
I think we just need to focus on being united as Christians, not just as Americans, and just keep God at the center of all this, and just make sure everything's revolving back to Him, because God is the center of our lives. We just need to keep that in check, I guess.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that racism starts at home, and we're not built to discriminate like other people, and we can be taught to love instead of to hate on others.
That's good. Thank you guys for sharing, and we'll kind of circle back here at the end. But I just want to speak to everyone at home right now who is wrestling through this, and I realize you might have a lot of feelings inside, feelings of being uncomfortable, of not knowing what to do, of maybe you've slipped in your mind of thinking that this is political somehow, and really we want to make sure that we're stepping away from that. This isn't Republican versus Democrat, conservative versus liberal, black versus white. it really is it's a kingdom issue. It's a God issue that we've got to come together on. And we talk about community all the time in Emmaus, and we talk about how, if a new person shows up, we don't want them to feel left out. We'll go out of our way to make them feel comfortable. If somebody who's been there a long time doesn't have their friends there, we'll go out of their way to make them feel comfortable and feel welcome. We're checking in with people in small group, whatever it may be. We talk about kind of facilitating that community. And right now, part of our community is hurting. And it is the same job for us to step up and to step out and to be there for them. And really to move from being friends into being family. And I think that's a big distinction that we need to make and that we need to be aware of is, friends, you can do a lot of fun things together. You can have shared experiences. It's great. It's fun. It's whatever. But when family is behind closed doors, they're the people that you love. They're the people that you have tough conversations with. I think about, the arguments and fights I've had with my brother and sister. And, I might have those tough conversations with them behind closed doors, but in public, if anybody else goes at my siblings, I'm there for them. I'm protecting them. I'm fighting for them. And that's exactly what we have to do. No, Justin's like, no.
No, you're not right.
Yeah. Now you got me all out. No.
Sorry.
But that's exactly what we need to do for our black brothers and sisters, and any of our minority brothers and sisters. But right now, specifically our black brothers and sisters, is we need to be there for them. And I want to share with you guys really quick two things. The first is going to be 7 attitudes towards race. This is actually from Brandon Short, one of our pastors. And I want to kind of speak through this, and then I want to tell you a little Bible analogy at the end of where you might be feeling right now. But here's the thing. I'm just going to kind of rush through these real quick. 7 attitudes towards race. There's racist, somebody who hates another race. They're very overt about it, and they let you know. There's bigot, which is slightly less militant, but still believes stereotypes about a particular race, belittles people, things like that. There's the avoider. An avoider is somebody who is uncomfortable around people who aren't like them, and it leads them to ignore and avoid the conversation or the issue and often deny the problem. And again, you might be finding yourself in some of these categories, especially as we go from avoiding on. They can be kind of where maybe we're at. The next one is insensitive. Such persons are insensitive to what hurts others and likely are continuing in denial. Okay, you're not aware of what you say or do might be hurting them. There's apathetic, people who just don't care about race, who just think like, listen, this isn't my problem, and are, maybe that's where you've been right now, and all of a sudden you're realizing this is more than just kind of where you're at. And then there's kind and inclusive. These people are mostly kind and inclusive, but this attitude is not the best. As a matter of fact, this is a good step, but it's an unacceptable endpoint for a Christian. Okay, and a lot of us like to try to land in the kind and inclusive and think that that's the end spot. But really, Christ calls us to take one more step, and that's to be the reconciler. So a reconciler is someone who is an active bridge builder and reflects what it means to be like Jesus. A follower of Jesus has to care. There is no choice. Reconciler is our calling. So reconciler is not just saying like, hey, I'm being kind to you guys when I'm around you, but it's actually saying I'm stepping out to try to build bridges and to heal wounds and to be there, protect, care, support, love, whatever it may be for those who are in need. And that's where we're trying to move as Christians. And if you are hearing this breakdown right now and you're going, I don't know where I land, or maybe you do know where you land and you're maybe a little embarrassed or ashamed of it, that's not the goal. The goal is not perfection here, it's progress, and it's coming to understand racism and our role in it and what it means to be Christians. And one of my favorite stories is from Mark 8, where Jesus goes to heal a blind man, and he spits in his eyes, which is weird. Jesus just walking around spitting on people. But he spits in his eyes, and the blind man goes from not being able to see anything to suddenly being able to see a little bit. It's foggy. He says people look like trees walking around. And I've had LASIK surgery, but before that I had contacts and glasses. And I remember like in my house I was fine, but when I stepped outside and everything was blurry from a distance, it was overwhelming. I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel like I knew what was going on around me. And that might be an analogy for where you're at right now. See, Jesus spits in the guy's eyes again and heals him to have clarity, but he went from blindness to blurriness to clarity. And right now, maybe you've been in blindness and now you're stepping into blurriness. and you're beginning to see things that are making you uncomfortable, that's okay. Following Jesus is uncomfortable. And as you continue to follow him, hopefully things will become more clear. Hopefully you'll begin to see our brothers and sisters right here as family. But it's so important for us to begin to keep taking those steps. Being a follower of Jesus isn't easy. And we always talk about it as like, hey, being a follower of Jesus, don't party or do drugs or that kind of stuff. But it goes beyond that. It actually goes to the deep issues that face our society. And that is our black brothers and sisters right now. And so I'm going to send you guys off to small group, and I want to kind of lay a couple ground rules for small group. Small group's going to be a time for you to talk through how you're feeling and to hear how others are feeling. It's not going to be a time for you to go in and say your political stance or what am I trying to say? Basically say that somebody else's feelings don't matter because you have this viewpoint. But it's actually a time for us to go and to understand. Realize that not everybody sees the world like you do. And this is a conversation so we can have a better understanding of what's going on. So go in there with some grace for yourself. If you're feeling uncomfortable and you're feeling overwhelmed, I think we would all agree that the point of this is not for everyone to feel guilty, right? The point of that is for them to become aware, to become family, and to start making change. And so, listen, our past is our past. We can ask for forgiveness, we can move on from that, and we can begin to build a new future, one where everybody is included and working together. And so I want to pray for us, and then we're going to go ahead and send you guys into your small group. So let's pray. God, I just lift up the black community right now. God, as they're facing pain and hurt and injustice, God, and a feeling like they don't belong. And God, I just pray against that so strongly. God, I pray for everybody in Emmaus that they would be able to see themselves as reconcilers, reaching out, God, to the black community, to every minority community, God, and realize that we're one family, we're a community in Christ, and that is what anchors us. God, not a political party or an ideology, but God, that we are all created in your image, every single one of us. And so, God, I just pray that you would give us grace, you would give us humility as we deal with the tough emotions and conversations around this topic. And God, help us to be kingdom people going forward. We pray all this in your son's name. Amen. So, hey, your small group link is in the description below. Hop onto Zoom. We'll go ahead and throw you in your small group. And once again, go in there with grace for yourself, for others. We know this is difficult. I have felt uncomfortable the past few days. I didn't even mention this with the Mark story. That's my story with race. I've moved from being kind of that apathetic, maybe avoiding type person to trying to be a reconciler. And I'm not there. And so if you're not there today, it's not to make you feel guilty. It's let's have the conversation so that we can move forward. So go ahead and hop into your small group, and we'll see you over there.